Hi, my name is Kareem, and I'm the IT community manager at Rippling. With over a decade of experience in IT and security, I'm here to help Rippling IT admins navigate the ever-changing world of IT. Today, we have Sam Neeson, who is an IT product lead at Rippling, who will demo and discuss an exciting new feature that a lot of admins have been requesting, device trust. Sam, before we begin, can you introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Kareem. So, like Kareem said, I am a product lead here at Rippling, and I'm also one of the two IT admins at Rippling, which is 32 people, 3,200 people and counting. Before Rippling, I worked as a head of product at a company where I integrated systems like Blue Yonder, NetSuite, and SAP. And I started my career in GRC, helping companies pass SOX audits. Rippling is an incredible place where we are trying to bring the most sophisticated and secure features to really everyone. People who may not necessarily have the resources or the budget or the time to set up these complex features like device trust.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Let's jump into the questions and topics. Um, can you give us an overview of device trust and what differentiates this offering from others?
Yeah, for sure. So device trust is a feature that you've probably seen on other platforms. In today's security climate, 0 days, phishing, breaches are rampant. Cloud app cloud applications like, AWS, Google Workspace, etc., protected by single sign-on make it easier for organizations to protect credentials to those systems by centralizing them in one place. But that actually has the side effect of creating a concentrated attack surface. A powerful capability is to make sure that access to those applications is authorized by devices, both assigned to the user who's trying to access those systems and owned and managed by the organization. So, in the case of a compromised device, your organization has a way to prevent access from the get-go rather than relying on detection and response. And we're the only company that is not only making sure that the device is authorized and the user is authorized separately, we actually make sure that the user is authorized to the device and the application that they're trying to access. So that's the big differentiator from a security perspective that we have when it comes to identity. Another differentiator that we have is that our device trust is built on top of our behavioral detection rules system. So consider this a rules-based system that evaluates not on every single sign-in, but actually on every single request, which means that you can protect against session hijacking attempts by stacking impossible velocity detections on top of other rules. And we'll get into that a little bit more when I go through the demo.
Whoa, that's super cool. I have so much questions and I can't wait to see this. How does the device trust ensure that tested devices can access corporate resources?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when a device is assigned to an employee, it is uh, essentially enrolled in the Rippling mobile device management service. It is assigned to the employee, which is validated by our agent that is on the computer. You will see this as the Rippling desktop app. And the Rippling desktop app, when you go to become a trusted device, makes an explicit request to our backend. And The nuance here is that traditionally, with other solutions, this communication is between two separate systems. For us, it's actually within the same system. So what's happening is we are a single trust zone, which is then issuing a certificate to your device. And that certificate is what we use to ensure at the time of any kind of authentication, when this behavioral detection rule is triggered, we ensure that the device has been issued a valid certificate from our certificate authority, meaning you don't have to set up your own and you don't have to set up your own PKI, and that device is assigned to the user and the user has the ability to access that application. And that is all evaluated in a single trust zone behind our infrastructure. So when a user actually goes through this flow, it's super simple. To enroll their device, they'll get a notification to log in to Rippling. They log into Rippling, they will get a certificate into their system keychain, and then anytime they trigger this behavioral detection rule that requires them to have a managed device, we will evaluate that trust by testing the certificate and communicating between the device and our backend to allow the user through or not.
Well, that's so cool. Um, let's jump onto a new topic. There's access controls are huge when it comes to compliance and security. Can you explain a little bit more about how device trust aligns with and can help organizations with those compliance requirements?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Kareem. So a lot of our customers who are looking to pass international standards, certifications like 2700, 2701 or SOC 2, they're looking to ensure that there is a control in place put by the organization that access to sensitive applications, there is a control to make sure that that access is controlled from hardware devices or hardware issued by the company. And what our solution does is it provides the evidence and the guarantee that you are able to prove that, when somebody accesses one of these systems that are in scope for a given control, that you can produce evidence that says, hey, I have a policy that guards access based on the device trust feature. And I can prove that people who don't have a managed device or people who are trying to access the application from a managed device, they're not able to. Those are
Awesome.
that is the like centerpiece of the control that is usually required for several certifications when it comes to compliance.
For sure. And definitely, I can definitely see how this can align with role-based access controls and even putting other safeguards in place to ensure that the identities of who the people are who are trying to access applications are truly there, who they are. That's really
Mhm.
cool. Let's move on to integrations and compatibility. Does Rippling Device Trust integrate with other IDPs and access management systems at the moment?
So for now, because we wanted to make enrollment and activation of this feature super easy, it only works with Rippling as the IDP and Rippling as the MDM. So that is our identity and access and device management products. We're definitely evaluating interest for support for other MDMs and IDPs in the future. But for now, what we are focusing on is making sure that the most amount of people can get benefit from this in a super easy way, in a way where they don't have to, integrate with other systems and they can speed through the configuration process to roll this out.
Yeah, totally. And that's the overlying benefit of having all of that data in one system. What operating systems does Device Trust support, and are there any limitations?
Yeah, thanks for that question. The platforms or operating systems that Device Trust is supporting as of now are Mac OS and Windows. So we will be releasing support for iOS soon with the upcoming iOS MDM launch. But those are the two the two operating systems that are being supported today. And as our mobile device management solution supports additional systems, we will release support for those operating systems. Additionally, the browsers that are explicitly supported are Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. Support for Safari is coming soon.
Awesome. Thank you. And this is, let's talk about the user experience and a little bit of the reporting capabilities. So,
Mhm.
what does it look like for the end user and when they're onboarding and, with the experience, if they do try to access an application from an unauthorized, untrusted device?
When a administrator wants to turn on this feature, they can actually go into the security app, and I'll actually show you where you can find this as a user who is trying to turn this on. So, our our platform has a app called the security app. This is traditionally where you'll find all your authentication features. And in the behavioral detection rules tab, you'll see a uh, a call out here to set up device trust. Additionally, you'll see a new page called the certificates page. Um, the certificates page is where you start, uh, where you actually go to distribute certificates to all of your devices that you are managing as a company. We actually built a PKI and we are the certificate authority for all of for the entirety of our customer base. And in the future, we're evaluating to allow customers to use their own certificate authorities and root certificates if they so prefer. So um, when you go to activate certificate distribution, which is the prerequisite that's really needed for device trust, you'll see a configuration of the certificate distribution policy. And what's the only thing that's really needed at this time is for you to actually set up the behavioral detection rule. So when I click this, I'll actually see this behavioral detection rule uh, uh, setup screen. And what I need to do here is I need to define who I want this to apply to and which applications I want to apply this to. So, I'm going to go ahead and use our supergroups functionality here to create a fairly standard group. I want to target all full-time employees with this rule because I know that's who gets a a device from my company. So I'll go ahead and type in full-time. And this is really like the power of the object graph at work. We are using every single part of the employee graph to allow you to, output a list of employees. And then I'm going to actually select a specific application that I want to guard access to, and I'll make it AWS Cognito. Now, what happens here is it's going to say that whenever an employee signs in who is in the scope of this rule, I'm going to require a managed device. And a feature that we actually allow that others don't is we allow you to change how long you want the device trusted for. So this is in the case like somebody wants so you want somebody to not have to continually get their device evaluated if they sign in multiple times within an hour, for example, or even 5 minutes. It depends on like what really you want. So for us, I'm going to actually keep it at 5 minutes. And then this next feature is actually super cool. This next feature basically allows you to say that once 90% of users have a trusted device, we will automatically turn on this rule for you. So this is so that you don't have to keep coming back and checking like, okay, like what's the status of this? Like, has everybody enrolled? We want to make it super easy for you to turn this on. So when I click continue, and then I go ahead and actually sign this up, set this up and activate it, uh, it will send out a notification to all devices that are assigned to employees to have them enroll. And since this is an account that hasn't rolled out everything, I'm actually going to quickly show you what this looks like once the rollout starts to occur. So really quick, you'll see that once the rollout starts to occur, you'll see a set of graphs that show how many employees have a trusted device that's rolled out. And this is how you can tell who has a trusted device or not. In addition, what we also support is a attribute inside of our object graph that allows you to actually go ahead and create a Slack channel filled with everybody that doesn't have a trusted device to get them to enroll. We also support reporting on all the certificates that are on a device in case you want to check that way. So at the end of the day, what we're really trying to make sure is that it takes the least amount of time for an admin to accomplish this critical control. And you have all of the tools that you need as an admin to communicate, to prod folks, to get their device enrolled, and also to make sure that you're not locking people out of their critical applications until you have a certain percentage of people with a trusted device. So that's really like what the enrollment process is like. And as an end employee, after I've logged into Rippling, and when I'm accessing one of those resources, I'm going to quickly just show you what this looks like. And this is a sneak little preview of the new SSO extension that we're building. It's as simple as that. That is the only thing that employees actually have to see or do whenever they're accessing a sensitive resource. We think that this is a super lightweight and also hopefully non-intrusive experience for our employees. And yeah, we can't wait to hear your feedback on it.
Thanks, Sam. What if I didn't want to wait for the threshold to be implemented?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of times when you activate the policy, you may realize that actually, I don't need to have the full 90% met. I actually think that, you know, wherever I'm at right now is good enough. You can actually go into the behavioral detection rules tab and go to the device trust rule that was created and enable that manually. And we will automatically, from that moment on, make sure that every access attempt to the apps that you've indicated in the rule is guarded by device trust. So you have full control, even if you did set a threshold in the past.
Awesome. It seems very straightforward, not that much, just not really disruptive to the admin to end users. Can we move on to scalability and future developments? What
Yeah,
resources will be available for admins during the implementation? It looks very straightforward, but will there be additional resources people can lean on and be able to follow up with to learn more?
yeah, yeah. So thanks, Kareem. The Help Center will have a comprehensive setup guide to accompany this flow itself. We do expect that some folks will have questions, obviously, while they're setting this up, and we expect that employees who encounter an issue may also have questions. Now, the employee experience will contain detailed error messages that indicate why they aren't able to access a specific application. We know that admins get a lot of questions around, like, well, why can't I access this, right? Our goal is to make sure that those answers are in plain sight and that employees can self-recover and in the case that they actually truly should not have access, that IT knows about it. With that, I actually do want to include the fact that every single time we evaluate a device for whether or not it's actually trusted and managed and assigned to the employee, we actually record the result in our activity log. And the IT activity log will have a event that you will be able to filter through to see if a challenge has failed for a given employee for a given access attempt or it has succeeded. And we think that, with that, that will really help IT admins debug when things may be going wrong or when they may be going right. And it will provide the evidence that's required for compliance certifications.
That's awesome. Are there any other actions beside the succeed or the denied or blocked that activity log will pick up for device trust?
Yeah, so with every single time you try to single sign on or sign into Rippling, behavioral detection rules run. And in the context of that sign in request, we actually will show you the behavioral detection rules that have been triggered for that sign in request. So you can filter the activity log by the behavioral detection rules that have been triggered. And then you can also see the results of that evaluation inside of each activity log event. Activity log events can be exported via CSV and JSON. And also, if you have access to our API, you can also query them via the API.
Oh, that's really cool. Um, are there any pitfalls or due diligent activities that admins need to perform before enabling device trust?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think it's a really important one to address. Because device trust is limited to Windows and Mac OS, these are desktop platforms, it's important to make sure that you're not blocking access to applications that may need to be accessed via mobile at this time. Until we support mobile platforms in device management, think of, people probably need to be able to sign into Slack on their mobile phones, right? You don't want to block access to Slack using this feature because what it will do is it will prevent anybody who is using a mobile device or an operating system other than macOS and Windows to sign in to their Slack account. This is by design. I think for us, it's definitely a goal to get iOS and other operating systems out as fast as possible in order to support this use case. But that's the major pitfall that I would warn about. Try to make sure that you are not enforcing access control to something that you would expect your employees to be able to use on a mobile device at this time.
Well, I guess this is going to segue to my next question. In future plans for enhancing device trust. You kind of alluded a little bit to it. Will there be some functionality or features coming out for BYOD devices and managing those applications that will need to be accessed on mobile devices?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So, as I said, iOS is our top priority. We anticipate that in the coming months, we will release the iOS MDM support, and with that, support for this feature. In addition to that feature, we will also follow up with a set of policies that you can configure about what kind of devices can be trusted. So think of excluding devices that are on a particular version of iOS. These types of controls are needed by companies that are allowing employees to use their own personal devices to enroll uh, 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 into their mobile MDM, into MDM. So those are two near-term improvements. Another improvement that we're launching sooner than that is support for Safari. So this is to ensure that if you're using the Safari browser, you are able to pass a device trust challenge.
Awesome. Sam, that's all the questions I have for you. Any last minute comments or thoughts for the community?
Yeah. Well, we're as an IT admin myself and as somewhat of uh, uh, a security nerd, we're really excited to launch this feature. We think that it's essential for companies to be able to accomplish their compliance goals at little to no cost to hopefully the learning curve of admins plus employee user experience. That's one of our focuses. We want to make sure that you can accomplish high grades of security without deeply affecting how users interact with systems. Um, so we're super excited to release this. We're excited to hear your feedback, and also we're fundamentally going along this journey where we want to take identity as who you are and the devices that you use and turn them into something that can be combined together to create a much more secure environment for your employees and your data. So yeah, thank you so much, Kareem, for letting me speak about device trust in such depth. I'm really looking forward to the community's feedback. Uh, and yeah, uh, uh, excited to hear the community's thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you again, Sam, everyone, and everyone for joining us today. We hope this session has been informative and helpful. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to us. Have a great day. Bye.